Live from Las Vegas, it's What Chaos at the Super Bowl. The only hockey show at the Super Bowl.
Welcome back to Radio Row at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. It's What Chaos. It is, I haven't thought of nicknames because we've been up all night. It is DJ Bean, a.k.a. Fuck it, we're not doing nicknames today. We were up all night just absolutely cooking. We've got an insane show today. Pete, Sean, also in the house. It's the biggest day of the sports calendar. We're the only hockey show at the Super Bowl. We got Bruce Cassidy on the show today. We are going to Oilers Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena to see the Oilmen go for 17 straight wins, which would tie the record. We'll preview that game with TechN9ne later on. But Pete, how are you?
I'm great. This is the big game everybody's talking about. Actually, it is very funny that we're here now because this Super Bowl trip has been in the works for months, and once the Oilers started getting hot, you looked at me and you were like, check out that game on the calendar. Check out what it could mean for the Edmonton Oilers. It could be history. And this was they'd won 3 games in a row at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that would be cool. But no way that happens. They're going to lose to the Blackhawks. Here we are. The Edmonton Oilers have a chance to make history tonight, and we will be in the building. I'm so fucking pumped.
I know, and we're going to see some people. We had a great day yesterday with the Golden Knights. Just an awesome content day. Sat down with some people, one of whom you'll hear today with Bruce Cassidy. We talked about everything. That guy, I forgot how much that guy just loves talking hockey. And he got shit back in the day for maybe being a little too frank and a little too honest or whatever. It's just because he knows so much about hockey and he's got takes.
Yeah.
And he wants to get them off. So he was amazing. Talked about Bill Belichick and his firing and everything. Awesome conversation. We're going to have that later on in the show. We're also going to talk about the fact that hockey games were played last night. Mm-hmm. They're back. The Rangers.
Meaningful hockey games.
Rangers beat the Avalanche in OT. Mm-hmm. Islanders beat the Leafs. Going to declare because we've got a lot of stuff on the show today. No one fucking cares about Islanders beat. Who cares about that game? I
mean, they beat the Leafs. I like that when the Leafs lose.
Yeah, but if the Leafs had come back, we could have maybe had a little galvanized talk.
It's somewhat of I guess not a tough night, but our guy Alex Georgiev, a little bit come back down to earth. Congrats on your $100,000, but welcome back to the grind, my fella.
It's not all about the money.
That's right.
He's our guy now.
Well, I think he's lightly become our guy.
Okay.
I think we're kind of invested in Alex Georgiev as a show now, right?
I feel like if anything, we're invested in him not being good.
No, I'm not going to root for him to be bad. No.
I like when something inconsequentially positive happens with him, and
Fair.
Then our mentions are oh, guess he still shouldn't be an all-star.
I do that. I can appreciate. Yeah.
There are very few guys that I'm going to actively root against. He's
I'm
not one of them.
Actively rooting against him. I'm just saying our whole discussion around him has been how he didn't deserve
right,
to be an
but that's
all-star.
not his fault. He didn't vote himself into
fair.
the All-Star game.
That's a good point.
He could have. Somebody did. It was a fan vote. I'll tell you what. We were watching Knights practice yesterday, hanging out at their awesome practice facility.
It is very good.
I'm just looking at Aiden Hill, and I'm like, am I shedding a tear for Aiden Hill? This poor guy should have been. And also, I know that Pete said he didn't play any games.
God.
Remember that, Sean? Remember I said, look how good Aiden Hill is? Pete said, I think he sucks because he doesn't play any games.
That was backed up by a person that we talked to yesterday who is very close to Aiden Hill.
Close to the situation?
Yes, very close to the situation. A source very close to Aiden Hill said that he didn't play enough games to get into the All-Star game. It may have been Aiden Hill.
We're also going to have a Pro Shop Wars with the Golden Knights, which we are going to be battered and bruised by the end of this. Sean's gifts are going down because Pete and I we need to get like 3. We're like, what are the 3 cheapest things? Please. It's so difficult. We're burying the lead, though, because while the games were being played last night, the boys were cooking. You said this trip has been in the works for a while. Mm-hmm. This trip started with how funny would it be if we went to Super Bowl opening night as hockey reporters and just asked questions in a hockey sort of way. We put together this video last night, and if you haven't seen it, I am so proud of it. I'm going to be annoying. I'm so proud of Sean and Pete, and that all of us, like, really, with a very stupid idea, like, nobody did better I don't know what anybody else did at the Super Bowl opening night last night. We did it the best. We were by far the fucking best there.
Despite the fact that the powers that be tried to stop us from being the best.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Tell your story, Sean.
Tell your story.
I mean, we had quite the journey from our hotel to the actual stadium, because it's like they took us on a bus ride throughout all of Las Vegas to get there. Walking to the stadium, go through all security, we're locked and loaded. As soon as I walk through security, it hits me. I don't have any SD cards. So the entire night is over. It's ruined. Thankfully, ALLCITY, we had Allie, had an SD card that we got to use and save the day. And then we didn't have a cord for the mics, but then we had a different cord for the mics, so then that worked. I feel like there was another thing, but I don't remember what it was.
There was a lot of stuff yesterday that could have stood in our way.
It's the ALLCITY way. We dominate a night, and then despite the fact that no one wants us to.
Yes, like God and stuff.
God, other reporters, yeah.
I don't know if you took a mental picture of DJ's face when you announced that the SD cards were missing.
Okay, let's talk about it. I broke my rule. So the one rule for this show, other than we need to occasionally talk hockey, is if somebody fucks something up, they are aware they fucked it up. They probably didn't fuck it up on purpose. Be supportive. Because you lost the SD card. The headline is, we don't have an SD card.
Yeah.
So we can get it. So, but granted, when you said that, I did are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, you didn't say, in your defense, you didn't say it that hard.
Right.
You immediately gave me a little pat on the shoulder, being like,
no, you did what?
Yeah,
and that was your face, and I felt terrible just because the reason that we are here is because of this brainchild of your idea.
You felt terrible. I felt awful.
And there was no saving that situation.
No, because we were so far away from the hotel.
So it was it all worked out. I'm very glad that it worked out. I'm very, very happy with the result. I'm also, you didn't give yourself flowers for you have not slept since we've got here. So
Pete and I are sharing a suite for this trip. So Pete is able to keep tabs on the rock and roll lifestyle of, if Sean edits and posts everything and makes everything and stuff, if there's a thing that I'm I know exactly what I want to, I'll just give Sean a fucking breather.
You're giving me too much credit. Any of the big creative stuff that we do is usually a DJ production.
Well, that's because when DJ gets excited about an idea, he doesn't sleep until he sees it.
Well, I don't want this to be any sort of DJ positivity hour, but it's easier for me to just make it and then show you versus say hey, what if we did this? So I'll say I have an idea. I'll fall off the face of the earth for 9 days and then come back and be all right, what do we think? But man, Pete, you with fucking Isaiah Pacheco. I was crying in every way. I was crying laughing. I was so fucking proud as a friend and as a shit stirrer partner in shit stirring.
I was proud as an ambassador of hockey that I turned Isaiah Pacheco into a Nathan MacKinnon fan. I think that he's a fan.
And it was, you cooked up let's ask Isaiah Pacheco about Nathan MacKinnon.
And the thing that we haven't even really talked about is immediately after that question, someone else asked a question as we're walking away, and he used Nathan MacKinnon in his answer.
He said Nick MacKinnon.
I listened to the audio. I listened to the audio. We walked away, and I'm sure some football reporters were and a football reporter said how would you describe your style of play though? And he said, like McKinnon.
He said like Nick McKinnon.
No, he said like
So
McKinnon.
good.
And the guy was probably staring at him, and he was like Nick McKinnon. Shout out Nick. That guy was
best.
great. I didn't realize. I thought that Sean had been to these before, so I thought that this was just like we're throwing Pete into this crazy thing where Pete was like, yo, I'm never seeing any of these fuckers again. So don't you worry about me. I will go in there and be as ridiculous as possible. But everybody was on their best behavior up there on the podium. Nobody said, like, fuck you, fuck. Kyle Shanahan was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, there was definitely some people gave the energy that they were like, I don't know what's going on here, but no one was like, fuck off.
Debo gave I can't tell if you're making fun of me or if you're the stupidest person in the world.
Yeah, and
so.
I think Butker was just like, I don't understand what you're saying, so I'm saying no.
Yo,
Yes.
we missed it. I was listening to the audio on the NFL website after. So you said, are you a 200-foot player? Which, hilarious, because 200-foot player, that's a hockey term. He can kick the ball 200 yards, 200 feet.
If he could have kicked the ball 200 yards, he would be
This would be a Pro
god.
Bowl media
Yes.
day. But he said no, and then we just used that. But after he said, I'm a like 5'10" player or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I
he thought
missed
you
that.
were saying, are you really tall? To which he's probably looking at, now I'm like coming full circle. He's probably looking at you and he's like, oh, that guy probably thinks that like everybody's like 200 feet tall.
That's fucked.
Hey, mister.
Unreal.
You're really, really big. What are other highlights?
He thought I was
from
a
that?
child reporter from like Nickelodeon.
Yeah. I really liked, why can't I think of Trevarius Ward?
He had good energy,
Yeah. He's been growing facial hair since he was born, which is interesting. But he still can't.
27 years.
27 years of growing that. It was so much fun, but that's just the kind of taste of stuff we're trying to do out here. It's the sort of thing that, I don't know, it had similar energy to the Vetrano thing. A little tongue-in-cheek, a little stupid, but a little hockey to it.
I mean, it was just like an entire night of grab ass. You can take that night as seriously as you want. That is not a serious night. What's his name? Voice. Who's the eldest Roy?
Logan Roy.
Logan Roy voice. This is not a serious night.
That's why I appreciate, like, we ran into some friends who are, like, hardened veteran reporters. Albert Breer, who's a star reporter, can get any story he wants, came over and he was like, hey, good for you guys. Like, this is for you.
Right. Well, I mean, like, if you're a serious reporter at media night, you are surrounded by fucking clowns.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
You may as well appreciate the clowns that are actually trying to do something and get something, like, worthwhile in terms of that grab-assery, rather than the people that are just like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we didn't
Wouldn't
even
it be
ask.
funny if this...
We didn't even ask closest to the stupidest question.
Yeah, for real.
Like people asking, if you get a ring on Sunday, is there going to be another one in your future?
Yeah, I saw that.
If you asked any couple that's been dating for like 4 months if they're going to get married,
Suck
they would
my
look at you
dick.
like an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
they would look at you like you're an asshole.
I do that actually when friends introduce me to like new significant others. Be like, hi, and
When's the wedding?
this is Christine, and I'm like, Christine, do you want to marry him? Are you going to do that? Oh, sorry, we don't always need to make hypotheticals heteronormative. I'll be like, are you going to marry her or marry them? And they're like, we just started dating. Shall we talk a little bit of hockey, though?
We shall,
Because
yes.
we've got Winter Classic news, Peter.
We do, well, not unofficially, but yes, the report is that you guessed it,
Blues.
the Chicago Blackhawks back in the Winter Classic. They're going to host the St. Louis Blues at Wrigley Field next year. And so that is the second repeat venue and the 9,000th time that the Chicago Blackhawks will be involved in an NHL outdoor game.
At least they'll be good next year.
Says who?
Nobody. That's my point.
Yeah, okay.
It's
I mean,
absurd.
they may have Macklin Celebrini. They
True.
will have Connor Bedard. I mean, that's the obvious reason why you put the Chicago Blackhawks back in the Winter Classic is the Connor Bedard effect. Also, like they did try something new this year. You had the Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken in Seattle. The ratings not super
Yeah, the
hot for
worst
that
of all
game.
time.
Well, everyone was watching a live stream on YouTube.
That's true.
The
I
cooking
mean,
show.
yeah.
They put him up against college football, like the biggest day of college football. Like that's an NHL bone job in my mind, not necessarily Vegas Kraken, but obviously they want the ratings. Chicago's a good ratings draw. I'm not going to be too mad about it. Like I think it's exciting. I love Chicago. Wrigley Field rocks.
I want to go to that.
At least put a better opponent and a more exciting opponent in, and like a new opponent rather than the Blues. The Blues aren't very good either, and they're not exciting.
But the Blues have historically had outrageously good Winter Classic jerseys. That's good for us.
I could see them.
It's good for us, but it's not.
Dude, Chicago. I want a black Winter Classic jersey.
Yes. A black Winter Classic.
Well, they've already. I just feel like how much are they gonna do?
That is true. I guess they
how
did.
How much different can they get? Because they've done like 6,000 outdoor jerseys, and they've repeated already.
Yeah, good point.
But not with that 98 on the back.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I was gonna ask. Like, this might sound like a stupid question.
We don't do stupid questions on this show this week, Sean.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if you were around yesterday.
No. Like, is the Connor Bedard thing is never going to wear off. Like, Connor McDavid hasn't really worn off, but it has, like, you don't need to watch every Connor McDavid
Yes, you do.
game.
I watch.
Yes, you do.
I was watching every
Speak for
Blackhawks,
yourself, pal.
pretty much until he got hurt. I would say I watched a third of the Blackhawks games, and I'm not kidding.
An electric player does turn a team into, like, essentially must-watch TV, regardless of whether they're good or bad.
League passy. I know that's jumping sports, but like the Blackhawks were league passy to me before he got hurt. I also want to say, I don't love this, they're going to have Bedard and Celebrini thing. In my mind, he's a Shark, and if he ends up being a Hawk, that's cool. That would be actually dope.
Except for the fact that anyone who's not a Chicago Blackhawks fan is going to immediately think that the NHL put the fix in again.
Which is... Oh, I thought you were saying that if, because the thing is, if the Hawks don't get Celebrini, Blackhawks fans are going to say they rigged it against them,
which is hilarious.
Which would be that's what I thought you were saying. But they're like, they just don't want us to get two in a row.
No, I mean, I don't think Blackhawks fans would be that ridiculous to do that, but I could be wrong. I mean, either way, the Chicago Blackhawks are going to have a very good player, a very good young player in the mix alongside Connor Bedard next year. Maybe it's Cole Yzerman, who I'm rooting for. Maybe it's somebody else. But, I
mean, you would hope. There's no guarantee that those guys are going to.
No, yeah. Well,
like Bedard and Celebrini, it's obvious that they're going to be NHL talents. But, like, Shane Wright, for example, has not played NHL games.
Fair. But, like, I mean, if you have a Cole Yzerman, you're probably going to end up playing him, like, alongside Connor Bedard. And I guess this probably work out.
A Chicago team where you got to be pretty bad not to be on the NHL roster.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We don't know what their roster is going to look like next year. I assume that they're going to start really, really revamping the roster, and they have plenty of flexibility to do so.
They've been spending, though. Like, they've probably, peeled off like $12 million off of next year's cap by
just in terms of extensions.
Guys. Yeah. Which is cool because the guys that they've extended are either good players. That was gonna be an accidental slight towards Nick Foligno. Are good players, and some are like you're paying extra for what they're bringing leadership-wise and everything. So
right.
I like what they've done. I just think that remember our early dreams of get Willie Nylander to the Hawks, which honestly, if he didn't sign with the Leafs right now, I would have been out on that idea by now anyway. I would have been like, have him go somewhere else.
No, I still would be in
in America, where, oh my God, what would he be doing during Jim Cornelison?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, like the most electric anthem and the most electric anthem denier in the NHL.
He would fit in Chicago because they make all kinds of noise.
Goofing around, making noise, clapping.
That's a good point too.
Yeah.
Damn, you guys are making some good points.
That's what we do here.
Glanced over at my wrist and saw. I didn't realize we had 2 Golden Knights friendship bracelets.
You can't have friendship bracelets without only one.
That's a really good point.
I just very clearly outed myself as a friendship virgin.
Never had friends before?
I have never had friendship bracelets. Never to the point of like friendship bracelets. Like if Pete at some point was like, hey, let's say we both, even though we're kind of wearing the same outfit right now, but if he was like, let's wear a bracelet for this thing. Not in like a toxic way. I'd just be like, we're too close. We can't do this anymore.
I also never thought about the fact that if you buy a package of friendship bracelets, like they have to have at least 2.
So should I keep this because Travis Kelce has the other one?
Kelly in the chat said that y'all have matching bracelets with Trav now. So yeah, you got to.
Do you think that he'll actually ever wear it?
No. He's probably got like. He's probably has to have like a box somewhere of millions of friendship bracelets he's been given by Swifties at this point.
Do you want to hear what happened? Again, from grabbing the audio off the NFL media site. So that exchange happens. Hey, Travis, check it out. It's a Golden Knights friendship bracelet. He was like, hell yeah, give it here, brother. Great exchange. We were all excited. We walk off and we're celebrating. And we hit stop. When I listened to the audio after to drop it in, apparently, because I could only hear his end, everybody that was there was like, oh, we can give him friendship bracelets. We got some friendship bracelets for you. And
really?
He was like, oh, yeah, just toss them up or whatever.
Wow.
And it was like Dave Grohl at a Foo Fighters concert getting Mentos thrown at him because everybody was just giving him friendship bracelets. But the one I gave him, I did see, and you see in the video, he puts in his pocket.
Hell yeah.
He's saving that for later.
Last Winter Classic note for me, like, I'm less mad about the Blackhawks being involved than I am the St. Louis Blues.
Good take, I agree.
The St. Louis Blues, not good.
No buzz.
They're not bad, but they're not good.
But
they're not exciting. The Wings would be awesome.
The Wings would be so awesome.
The Wings would be awesome.
Kane,
But I do feel like they should save the Wings for their own to host.
That's completely fair.
And like, because they're a draw. Like, they can throw them in the next year's game. But like, yeah, the Blues. You have so many more options than the Blues. Like, the Blues hosted 2017, 20.
That sounds right.
2019, like not long ago, and like not good, not exciting.
But the jerseys went crazy.
Blues hosted in 2017.
Snipe by you. Last thing. We've said last thing a million times, but swear to God, this is their 5th time in an outdoor game. If you were given going into this over-under 4.5 Winter Classics or outdoor games, for the Blackhawks, what would you have guessed?
Over.
I would have guessed so far. I would think that this is like their 7th or 8th at this point.
Well, that's not count. If you're just specifying Winter Classic. Because they've had Stadium Series games. They had Stadium Series at
yeah, but it says Blackhawks, this is their 5th time in an outdoor game.
Maybe it's their 5th Winter Classic, because I think they've had more outdoor games.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Well, if
way
I just
too many. I feel like that has to just be outdoor games.
If I just angrily push back on a stat that doesn't exist, then it's perfect for Radio Row, because that's radio shit.
5th time participating in the Winter Classic. And their 3rd time hosting the Winter Classic. So they've been in more than 5.
All right, so then getting back to
games.
the beginning, yeah, man, it feels like this is like 9. They played in so many of these. Hey, tell you what, if you're looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code WhatChaos. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code WhatChaos. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. We had a lovely conversation with Bruce Cassidy, talking lots of hockey. We were planning on grab-assing about the Super Bowl, but within 3 seconds, we find ourselves like unbelievably breaking down hockey like a couple of assholes.
Do you think this is our biggest like hockey-heavy interview? Because I absolutely think
this is our most hockey-heavy interview, and I think it might be one of like 2 interviews where we've started it like an interview, where like he came in, we talked a little, like said hello to each other, and then when we got going, did the like, we are at blah 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 with Stanley Cup champion, not to shoot our wad here, Stanley Cup champion Bruce Cassidy. We never do that. We're usually like,
yeah, but Bruce Cassidy's a pretty intimidating guy, and like it's harder to do that stuff with coaches.
Yeah,
and I think that I was a little nervous, and I
really,
he's an intimidating guy.
Oh, see, he's so great. If it was like Claude or something, I'd be a little more nervous.
Really? No, I was pretty intimidated, and
it's because you're young.
Yeah,
he hates the young kids.
That's right. He doesn't want to play us.
He did right. He didn't play you the entire time.
Yeah,
we were there.
I didn't speak this entire interview.
Very scary. Yeah, you were HWing it. Here's Cassidy.
We are the only hockey
show at the Super Bowl. So we're joined by Stanley Cup champion, head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, Bruce Cassidy. Bruce, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, fellas. It was a good year last year. I like the ring to that Stanley Cup champion.
I mean, so my favorite receiving of a cup was Chara because he almost fell down because he was so emotional. But I loved when you won. You said like, they can't take this away from me, and it was just so clearly like someone who's played hockey, coached hockey all their life and everything, and you've seen the Stanley Cup before, you've coached for the Stanley Cup before, but like that when you fucking do it, that must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, listen, it's an exclusive club, yet there's a lot of people in it, if that makes any sense, and I was not one of them. And there's a lot of guys that play for a long time, manage for a long time, coach for a long time, and they never get in it and never get close. So I was close in Boston. It was a heartbreaker in 19, but to get a second chance was awesome. We got it done. So there's no better feeling in that moment. I mean, so many different people ask, well, what were you feeling? Well, there's a million different things. You're looking for your family because you want to thank them, the players, the coaches, everyone, the trainers, everyone that's worked so hard because everyone plays a part in it. So it really is a unique feeling in that regard, probably for about 5 minutes of your life that you might never feel again.
Is some of the chaos and madness of it all, like, God, like 12 months ago, you're in a much different situation. The goalie who finishes third in Conn Smythe is in a much different situation a year ago. Like, you're starting the Misfits in like the final game. All these things were just so different and not too long ago. So like, did that feel like I hate to use the term whirlwind, but like,
it was because we went into the All-Star break and we weren't even sure we were going to make the playoffs. We had people in and out of our lineup, and then we found out we're going to lose Mark Stone for the rest of the year and maybe longer. We didn't know he'd come back for the playoffs. We come out of the break, we lose not one goalie, but another goalie. So you're piecing it together, but when you're in 82 games, you're almost, you lose sight of the big picture sometimes. You're just coaching for the next game. We got to get through this game, get to the next game, win, and we kept winning with different people in the lineup. So now you start feeling pretty good about your chances. You're like, okay, maybe this is our year. It's fallen into place, and different goalies are winning for us. So there's that part of it too, the optimistic part of using different people and having success. So, but yes, there was a lot of different emotions last year. The Bruins were having an outstanding year, so you can't help but think, well, what the hell did I do wrong there to mess them up? And so you got different things because I left a big piece of me there, and to be able to win the cup in Vegas, you can put some of that behind you and feel like, hey, I did my best. It didn't work out. And it's working out here.
Yeah. How much sleep did you lose when you were watching like the Bruins being like, how is this happening over there at the same time that, obviously you got the last laugh here, but how weird was it during that season?
Yeah, it's funny people say that, and I don't mean to, but I don't look at it the last laugh because there's a lot of people I'm really close with there, and you want them to have success, not against us, and we want to be the last team standing. But so it's mixed emotions, I think. But to be able to say, hey, I knew I could do this. I guess that's how I felt. Like I knew I could get a team over the hump and win our last game of the season. So that's what I felt good about. Now the players obviously have everything to do with that, but you get to be the guy that directs them. So that part of it was really rewarding.
This is very indicative of us that we come to the Super Bowl to like do jokey Super Bowl stuff, and then we can't even stay on topic with that. We can't help but keep asking you about hockey because this is such a good conversation. How did you deal with it did get made personal when you left Boston, and I remember as like a talking head or whatever, I was like, I almost wish he did like a bad job for a week so people could just say like he was a bad coach or whatever. People were so surprised when they let go of you that they're looking for what did he do wrong, who doesn't he like, who doesn't like him. Like did that hurt your feelings?
Well, you're always going to reflect, right? When you're told you're not wanted anymore, why there'll be conversation. Like I have a good relationship with Donnie. We worked together for probably 12 years at least, whatever it was. So I respect his opinion. Don't always agree with everything he says because I have my side of it too. But so that part of it, you sort of take, okay, well, what could I have done better? But then you're also like, well, I did do this part well, I thought, and I wanted to continue doing that part well and keep building on it. So at the end of the day, it goes back and forth too. I enjoyed my time in Boston because I think I've made this. I was a Bruins fan growing up, so to be able to, I didn't get to play for my dream team. I played a little bit in Chicago, but I got to coach my dream team. So for me, I felt very grateful for the whole experience. So you don't want to get too down on the whole thing, but that sort of bums you out even more that you weren't able to finish the job for your favorite team. But at the end of the day, we got a cup here. And we still have a house in Cape Cod. So I have lots of friends that are still there, and they're Bruins fans, right? So it's Bruins first, and then I happen to be the neighbor. I'm second, and I'm okay with that because I get it. Like they're diehard, but I still have a lot of friends that are very respectful, great people, whether we would have won or not. They were, they like you as a person. My kids grew up in New England, so there's a lot of attachments there. I was in a lot of hockey rinks. Both my kids played minor hockey there, so I got to know a lot of parents outside of the NHL life. Just so I think that's why I had a connection with a lot of people in Boston. I was just a regular dad at rinks a lot of weekends and a lot of nights, and then I'm going to coach the Bruins. So you can relate to a lot of different people.
I'm sure the day-to-day of the the cup playoffs is a grind. How long did it take to set in that you guys won and you're like, holy shit, this is, you get to enjoy it?
I got to tell you, there's some different pieces of that, right? There's the on ice right away, right? Like I said, you're looking up, families coming down, all the families are on the ice, cups in your hands, it's over your head. Everyone's, couldn't be more joy and love on the ice for everybody. We won it at home. 18,500 and some people are still in the building. So then you get away from that. Then the parade comes, right? So now you're like, geez, we won this thing. Look at these. And then you go home and you have your cup day, and it sets in again. Like a month later, it's like, my name is on this damn there. That's all I ever wanted. And so then reality hits again. So I think it goes in phases. Honestly, even when we got our ring ceremony at the start of the year, it's another one of, wow, we did this, because you forget for a while and you're back to work. So there's no one time that it really set in. I think it's when you see your name on the cup. I guess for me, it was probably truly like it's
there.
Happening.
Yeah. Was there a particular moment during the cup celebration that was like enjoyable or funny that other people didn't see outside of the organization?
I don't know if anything was funny. I didn't trip and fall. I was able to lift it. My problems are all with my hips and knees. Shoulders were good. I think for me, it's when I did lift it, I was thinking both my parents have passed away for quite a bit of time now, and I was hoping, I don't know what goes on in the afterlife. I was hoping they'd hopefully be able to see down and get a look at it, because they're the ones, like every parent, right, that spends, like I'm doing now, time in the rink and driving the car so the kids can live their dreams. So that's the part to me that was truly, that no one would have saw, that I was, got me emotional at the time, probably still will. But nothing, no, I don't have nothing real. I don't have no real funny stories other than the typical stuff, the champagne in the room, and one that I could probably say now where the cup did break. And I hope that's, it's been all fixed and everything's fine. Small break, but that part you're kind of like, holy shit, like, is this supposed to happen? Does this happen to everybody?
Not the first, probably won't be the last either.
So I know I'm probably in trouble with the NHL, but everything's good. It's fine. It's there's if you've ever up close, it is dented all over and it truly is. You can tell it's not some replica because it's got some marks on it.
Poor Phil Pritchard had nightmares during the summer.
Coming into this roster, did you? I mean, I know it's a new gig and you're meeting people, although actually everybody here worked for the Bruins at some point, so you actually probably knew everybody. But like coming into this roster, are you thinking like, probably can do this? We could probably win the cup relatively quickly.
Well, I will say I interviewed with a number of different teams, and I thought Vegas, it's easy to say now, right? But I thought they truly had the best chance. People forget, even though they missed the playoffs the year before, they were a Stanley Cup finalist. They went to the Western Conference final twice. So they had some pedigree there. Guys in the room, Martinez, Petro, Barbashev, who acquired, they had all won cups. So there's guys that have also been there that could show the way. So yes, I did feel that they had the opportunity to do it. What I didn't know is the West. Like, who are the, in Boston, you knew is you had to get through Tampa. You had to. The talk about the Leafs, yeah, but playoffs, they weren't an animal like Tampa was. So you knew the teams in the East that were going to be problematic. You knew Carolina was on the rise. The West, it was only, Colorado won, but it was with a lot of star players. Are they going to be able to repeat if, without the depth, et cetera? So you don't know. And Edmonton has some good players, but they hadn't been. So that was the learning curve. Like
one of my questions was going to be, how much does it suck coaching in the Pacific? Because
it's pretty good right now. It reminds me of the Atlantic for years. I mean, coaching the Bruins, even my last year, not to cut you off, we had 107 points and we were a wild card. I mean, it's a strong division. Toronto's always good. Again, regular season success hasn't translated to playoffs for them, but you figure if they keep showing up, one day it'll probably will. Tampa was three trips to the cup in a row. Florida, I thought, won the President's Trophy one year, so they were getting there. It was a strong division. Now we're right back in that. Vancouver has become Florida a little bit, right out of nowhere. Now they look like they're the real deal. We'll see. And Edmonton is like Toronto, but has taken the steps. They've won, like they lost to the Cup champions the last 2 years. I mean, that means something. And it should build some resolve in their game. So yes, and you had Seattle that came out of nowhere. Now they're kind of okay this year, but LA, I'm not sure what's going to happen. They've been a tale of two different teams, but it is a strong division for sure. There's not a lot of easy nights. Now, you got San Jose down at the bottom that are a little bit like Buffalo has been for years in Ottawa, where they're kind of at a different place. And I think every division has those teams, Columbus, Chicago. So you're always going to have a couple now in the new NHL where they're thinking about the future. It didn't seem to be that way years ago, but now that's just the reality of the league.
I know that you're an NHL coach, so you know all the teams and everything, but that was like some like AP lit level of like you just banged out the most brilliant paper on the similarities between divisions I've ever been. Every point you start to make, I was like, yeah. So I was coming at it from like, Vancouver takes a step and you're like, oh, well, at least Edmonton sucks this year, it appears. And then you wake up a week later and you're like, geez, Edmonton's doing what now? But iron sharpens iron,
well,
right?
we have also had the conversation several times this year where, like, you look at the top 5 teams in the league, we probably think that the top 4 come out of the Western Conference. Would you agree with that assessment or around that?
You know what? I think the West is I'll say this, as strong, if not stronger than the East, whereas before I didn't know if I always believed that.
Right.
It might just be the pendulum. It was when LA, San Jose, and Anaheim were dominating the Pacific, and that's probably, 12 years ago when the Hawks were winning. I think the West was that. Now we're kind of back there. I think the West has a chance to get a run of cups here. We got one, Colorado got one. I think Edmonton's getting close. Dallas is sneaky good, solid team. Winnipeg this year, you don't know because they haven't been there, but they're surprising some, and they're winning. Yeah, I look at it too, like the regular season, where I think some people miss is evaluating a regular season team versus a playoff team. It's 2 more months of a grind, and there's certain ways you can win in the playoffs. Like, listen, you got to have good players no matter what, but it's a different game. People always say to me, well, the refs swallow their whistles. I'm like, no, they don't. There's a lot of penalties called in the playoffs. It's the teams are better, and they check better, and they defend better. So you have to be able to play that game in the playoffs. And if you can't, and that's what Winnipeg is, just to get back to Winnipeg, that's what they're doing well. So it leads me to believe they have a chance because they keep the puck out of their net. And in the playoffs, if you can't if you can't defend, you can't have a bad week of not scoring because you're done if you do.
How important do you think it is to get your ass kicked in the playoff, like at least once?
I think it's good for young guys to go through that process of, oh boy, this is what it takes. And I think that goes back to the story I read on Edmonton when they walked by the dressing room and the Islanders won. I think it was their 4th cup, right before Edmonton won. Gretzky is looking in their room and there's no, there's music, but it's not loud. There's no huge celebration. There's ice bag after ice bag. And he's like, holy shit, this is what it takes to win. Like, it hurts and it's tough. And I think he probably learned a little bit from that, and they went on to win 4 in a row. So I think that's where Edmonton can be dangerous. And I thought that's where Toronto would always be dangerous to get over that hump because those young guys. But we'll see in that regard. But I've seen it with, like, Edmonton's done it 2 years in a row now with Colorado and us. So that scares me a little bit about, their progression. As you pointed out, losing in the playoffs can really drive you. So we'll see if that happens to them. I'm not in that room. I've never coached McDavid, Draisaitl, these guys. Right. But my guess is that could be how they view themselves and what their motivating factor is.
Belichick always spoke very fondly of you. What did you think when you saw him get let go?
Yeah, listen, I felt for Bill because he's been there so long. I mean, listen, he was an icon, always will be. Patriots fans, I know you always want to win in the moment, right? But they're going to really look back and say, boy, this is the best coach in football we ever had, and we're fortunate to have him. Combine him with arguably the best quarterback in football, and that's why he gets 6 Super Bowls, right? So can't say enough about the job he did there. I got to know him a little bit over my last 3 or 4 years there. We keep in touch here and there, more about just the grind of coaching, the coaching life. And I wish him all the best going forward. I'm not sure what's next on his agenda. Hopefully, he's got a lot to give, so he finds a good spot for himself and gets back to work and get his name on the trophy again.
Socially, you two couldn't be more different. I mean, he was always very short with media, everything. I remember when you were in Providence, you were always such a good resource of guys would come down to do stories on how players were doing and everything, and you'd talk the way that we're talking right now and say like, hey, this is what we need to work on, this is what's happening, and you'd really want to like fill people in and give them a good understanding. Why is that? Because a lot of coaches will take the
You know what? I've always liked to talk hockey, right? So sometimes I forget I'm talking to the media. That
the bad guys.
No, I don't look at it that way at all. You guys, I've said this to Steve Conroy and Kevin DuPont and the guys that were there. Like, you're here every day grinding too, right? So I respect that. You got a job to do. How you do your job, some days, some guys I might like, that's not my cup of tea, when he's constantly going after people, like, but grinding away to get the job done, I appreciate that and respect that. So that's how I've always looked at it. And then, like I said, I like to talk hockey, and sometimes I forget I'm talking to the media, and then the words get out there, and I was like, did I really sound just player? Now they get, so you got to be a little bit careful they don't get away from you. I've learned that as well. But at the end of the day, I probably never change that. It's just who I am. And as I said, when I talked to Bill, I was expecting a bit of maybe the Kurt, sort of, but as I said, we had great conversation. He's a great guy to talk to, but it was in our environment as coaches, right? So that's just him. I don't know if something happened in Cleveland years ago. I don't know enough about it, or that's just the way he approaches it, to each his own. That's just the way I approach it, probably always will. And most of the time, most of the media have said to me, they appreciate it and respect it. If I get the same treatment in return, then, that's all is good.
The one that killed me in the example of you talking hockey was last year. You caught heat because you said, like, we didn't play well tonight, and you threw out an example of, like, we won't win if we play this way in the regular season, and you threw out like a January game against the Coyotes, and people took it as like Cassidy goes in on the Coyotes, and I remember seeing that being like, that, not to like make excuses, I'm like, that's so not what he was doing. He was just saying like a time in the middle of the season. But like, are there moments like that where you're
yes, and I apologize to, because John Ferguson moved over there, who was with the Bruins, and he's a really good friend of mine. So I texted him the next day, and I said, Fergie, yeah, something's gonna, but listen, the Army's number, their GM, I'll apologize, because I wasn't, as you said, it was more a reference of where we were at, and I chose a team, and I shouldn't have. I was disrespectful, and that's what I said the next day. Shouldn't do that. But it wasn't, it wasn't me. I don't think it was mean-spirited. I don't, and they were fine with it. But yes, you got to check yourself in those situations, and that's where I've got to be better sometimes, is just give an answer and stop.
It would have been funny though, and I have to check the schedule, if like you guys had a January game against the Coyotes and they come out like, and you're like, Jesus, what got into them?
They did beat us in January at the Mullet Arena. So like, you're a double of eating my words, and I think it was about turnovers, and we didn't even have that many turnovers, and we still lost. So again, I was using it as an example as a coach, where I was just, listen, I was in a pissy mood after a game, and I wanted to tell it like it is, without, like, sometimes I don't think it's the end of the world for the fan base, because you are speaking to the fan base a lot as a coach, to hear that, hey, the coach isn't happy with the game, and it's not going to give you the usual, we need to be better, because sometimes there's a time and a place for that, and other times it's like, listen, we weren't good enough, we wouldn't have beat anybody tonight. And the players, they're going to look at that, and it's like, well, he's calling out the whole team. It's not like he's picking on one guy, and he's probably right in this case. I don't do it every day. I think I've done the opposite a lot over the years. Say, boy, our guys are really digging in. We've had injuries. We're playing well, playing the right way. So I think there's both sides of it.
It would have been incredible if after that loss, if you were like, you know what, we're not beating Dallas in Game 5 in May if we play that way. And then it all would have come full circle. Are you going to the Super Bowl?
Right now, we do not have tickets. And we are looking at a way for the family to go. I honestly love to. It's Vegas, and it's a beautiful stadium, obviously. It's a great setup. I find it sometimes easier to watch the game like in a more relaxed setting, especially when I have no skin in the game. It's the Chiefs and the Niners. I like, both teams are solid, good stories. But right now it's a no, but we're working on it.
I wanted to ask you about Jack Eichel. A lot has been made about Jack and like his comeback from surgery and all that, but I think the most interesting thing about Jack Eichel recently has been the development of the two-way game. How much have you seen, and how much were you surprised by his two-way game when you got here and started coaching him?
Well, he came from a place that he was criticized for that, and I wasn't there, so I only coached against him, and I can't say in those few games that he was not a good defensive player. So we met in the summer. We met on Cape Cod. He was on his way to a wedding, and we talked about that. I said, this is what I would like to see from you. This is my expectation. What is yours? What do you want? What do you want from a coach? And very upfront, I want to be coached. I want to be a better player. I want to win. I'm tired of losing. I know we have a good team. We're going to be healthier going into this year because he came in the middle of the year when they were hurt. And that's what he wanted. So I said, well, that's what you'll get. And I said, I think I'm going to use Bergeron as an example a lot of times. Jack, you're a different player than him, but I'll use David Krejci as well because you play a little bit more like him. But David Krejci was an excellent defensive center. No one talks about that. They talk about more as, big playoff Krejci, and rightfully so, but he was a very, very good defensive player. And so it doesn't mean you have to take away from your offense. So I think that people like to hear that. And we went to work on it. It was simply reminders. It was some challenges. There were some times he got challenged. He came in the office. I don't agree with you. Well, let's watch it. So there was some time put into it, but Jack wants to do it, and he has the ability to do it. He's got a great stick, high hockey IQ, closes quicker than as well as anybody, and that's our job as a centerman. Listen, we did it in Boston for years. We're doing it here, and you really need good centermen. Carlson is another guy that's excellent at it. Stevenson is a good center ice who can skate and close, and Nick Wasver. So we're good down the middle playing. That's why I think, had success last year at the end when it matters. We had 4 really good centermen. So no matter when McDavid came on the ice or Pavelski's line, etc., Barkov, we had good centermen that could, our D were big. Obviously, it's more that, but that's where Jack came in, and he bought into it. And I'm gonna pound the drum for him for the Selke because I think he's as good as anybody in the two-way game. He has the offensive part, obviously, that people crave now for that award. And William Karlsson, they're both, elite defensive centerman. Jack, the only area that he has to have, we've talked about this a lot, for that award, would have to get better in the circle, face-offs. I think for people to say, okay, I'll buy into that, coach. But anyway, that's just what I see, and people can agree or disagree, but I think the whole world that watched him closely last year, and if he gets another chance to be on the big stage, we'll see that he's an excellent, like a real asset to play against top players.
What you got to tell them is like, hey, man, these voters are cheap dates. If you can just play well enough to win one Selke, you're a Selke guy, and then you're going to finish top 3 in Selke voting for the rest of your career. Just play well defensively this one fucking season, and you're going to the Hall of Fame. And I think dangling that little carrot could do well.
I tell you what, the Selke though, it was Bergie's award basically, and I coached him, so rightfully so. I was banging that drum. And now it's a little more wide open because Kopi's getting older, and he's the Bergie of the West. Now I've seen it now in LA. I don't think he got enough respect for that, maybe because he played in Los Angeles, but he's excellent at that. But I think it's going to open up here a little bit. So maybe someone can kick the door down, not your usual sort of guys every year. And you hear that now. It may be Barkov. It may be the Minnesota Eck or whoever it's going to be. They're even talking about wingers, Marner and Mark Stone, that could get it. I think it's probably a centerman's award for the most part, but we'll see.
People used to wrinkle their noses whenever they'd see who gave a Selke vote to like this